My name is David Coleman, and this is the story of how my marriage ended. I'm a 35-year-old software engineer living in Seattle, Washington. My wife, Sarah, is 33 and works as a graphic designer. We've been married for 8 years, and for the longest time, I thought we had a perfect relationship. We met at a tech conference in San Francisco, where I was presenting on a new piece of software I had developed. Sarah was there to support a friend and ended up attending my presentation by chance. We struck up a conversation afterward, and there was an immediate connection. We shared similar interests, had the same sense of humor, and quickly fell in love. Our early years together were a dream. We traveled, explored new cities, and supported each other's careers. Sarah's creativity complemented my logical thinking, and I loved how we balanced each other out. We bought a house in a quiet suburb of Seattle and filled it with memories. But, as with many stories, not everything stayed perfect. It all started about a year ago. Sarah's behavior began to change subtly. She started working late more often and was unusually secretive about her phone. She would sometimes step out to take calls and become defensive when I asked who it was. At first, I attributed it to stress from a new project she was working on, but the nagging feeling in the back of my mind grew stronger. One Saturday afternoon, I decided to talk to Sarah about my concerns. I approached her gently, hoping to avoid a confrontation. "Sarah, I've noticed you've been really busy lately, and it seems like something is bothering you. Is everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. She looked up from her sketchpad, her eyes widening slightly. Then she smiled. "Oh, David, it's just work. You know how demanding it can be sometimes," she replied, brushing off my concerns. I wanted to believe her, but a seed of doubt had been planted. As the weeks passed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I started paying closer attention to her behavior. Sarah began going out with friends more often, something she hadn't done much in the past. She'd leave on Friday evenings, saying she needed a night out to unwind, but she wouldn't return until early Saturday morning. When I asked who she was with, she would give vague answers or change the subject. My suspicions grew, and I found myself in a moral dilemma. Should I trust her and risk being made a fool, or should I investigate and risk destroying the trust we had built over the years? I decided to do a bit of digging. One evening, while she was out with her friends, I looked at her phone. I felt guilty and ashamed for invading her privacy, but my curiosity got the better of me. What I found only added to my suspicions. There were numerous texts from a contact saved as Nick, but the content of the messages had been deleted. It struck me as odd because Sarah was usually quite transparent with her phone. The next day, I confronted Sarah again, this time with the evidence I had found. "Sarah, who is Nick? And why are your messages with him deleted?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. She hesitated for a moment before answering. "Nick is just a friend from work. We talk about projects and sometimes vent about the stress. There's nothing to worry about, David." Her explanation sounded plausible, but her hesitation made me doubt her words. I decided to take a different approach. Instead of confronting her directly, I would gather more information. I began to notice other changes in her behavior. She started dressing differently, more stylish and bold than her usual casual attire. She was also spending more time at the gym, which she had never been particularly interested in before. All these little changes added up, and my suspicion grew. One evening, when Sarah was at the gym, I decided to check her email. Again, I felt a pang of guilt for invading her privacy, but I needed answers. I found an email thread between her and Nick, discussing a weekend trip they had taken to Portland. She had told me she was going on a business trip with her colleagues, but the email revealed it was just the two of them. My heart sank as I read through their messages, which were filled with inside jokes and affectionate language. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and sadness. How could she do this to me? To us? I decided it was time to take more concrete action. I reached out to a private investigator, someone who could confirm my suspicions and provide undeniable proof. Dear viewers, more than 90% watch my content without subscribing. If you still have not subscribed, then I ask you to do so. For me, this is the best motivation to continue. The investigator, a middle-aged woman named Karen, was professional and discreet. She assured me that she would get to the bottom of it. Over the next few weeks, Karen followed Sarah and documented her activities. The evidence was damning. Photos of Sarah and Nick holding hands, kissing, and entering a hotel together. My worst fears were confirmed. When Karen handed me the envelope containing the photos, I felt a surge of anger and heartbreak. But more than anything, I felt a deep sense of loss. I decided to confront Sarah with the evidence. One evening, I sat her down and laid the photos on the table. "Sarah, I know about Nick. I know about everything," I said, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and sadness. She looked at the photos, her face turning pale. She didn't deny it. Instead, she started crying, apologizing, and trying to explain herself. "David, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. It just did," she sobbed. Her apologies felt hollow. The trust had been shattered, and there was no going back. I told her I needed some time to think and asked her to stay with a friend for a few days. During this time, I sought advice from my closest friends and family. I needed to know what to do next. The consensus was clear. Our marriage was over. There was no repairing the damage that had been done. I contacted a lawyer and started the process of filing for divorce. The decision was heartbreaking, but I knew it was the right one. Sarah and I had a long, tearful conversation where we agreed to part ways amicably. We discussed the division of our assets and agreed on the terms of the divorce. It was painful to dismantle the life we had built together, but it was necessary. Throughout the divorce process, I leaned heavily on my friends and family for support. I also started seeing a therapist to help me process my emotions and come to terms with the betrayal. It was a difficult time, but I slowly began to rebuild my life. I focused on my work, took up new hobbies, and reconnected with old friends. As the months passed, the pain of the betrayal began to fade. I learned to let go of the anger and resentment and started to look forward to the future. I realized that while Sarah's infidelity had been devastating, it had also been a wake-up call. It forced me to reassess my life and what I wanted from it. In the end, I emerged stronger and more resilient. I knew that trust could be rebuilt, but it had to be with someone who valued it as much as I did. My story is a reminder that even in the face of betrayal, there is always a path to healing and growth. Months passed, and I found myself adapting to the single life once more. The house that once echoed with shared laughter now felt vast and empty, filled with memories of what once was. I decided it was time for a change and moved into a smaller apartment in downtown Seattle. The new environment helped me to focus on myself and my future. Work became my primary escape. I threw myself into my projects, often staying late at the office to avoid the emptiness of my apartment. My colleagues noticed my increased dedication, and although they didn't know the full story, they offered their support in their own ways. My boss, Eric, even suggested I take on a leadership role in a new high-profile project. It was a welcome distraction, and I eagerly accepted. Around this time, I also started attending a support group for people who had experienced infidelity. The group met weekly at a local community center, and although I was initially hesitant, it turned out to be incredibly therapeutic. Sharing my story with others who had gone through similar experiences helped me to process my emotions and gain new perspectives. I made a few friends in the group, including a man named Mike who had gone through a similar situation. We often met for coffee after the meetings, and his insights were invaluable. One evening, after a particularly intense support group session, I decided to go for a walk around Green Lake, a favorite spot of mine. The fresh air and the rhythmic sound of my footsteps helped to clear my mind. It was during these walks that I began to think seriously about my future. I had always dreamed of starting my own software company, and I realized that now was the perfect time to pursue that dream. I began to draft a business plan and reached out to a few trusted colleagues who shared my vision. We spent months developing a prototype and securing funding. The process was both exhilarating and exhausting, but it gave me a renewed sense of purpose. When we finally launched the company, the sense of accomplishment was indescribable. As the company grew, I found myself becoming more and more confident. I was finally starting to feel like myself again. My friends and family noticed the change in me and were happy to see me moving forward. I even began to date again, albeit cautiously. I wasn't looking for anything serious, but it felt good to open up to the possibility of love once more. One day, while attending a tech conference in Los Angeles, I met Laura. She was a marketing executive from Chicago, and we hit it off immediately. We spent hours talking about everything from our favorite movies to our career aspirations. It was refreshing to connect with someone on such a deep level. We exchanged numbers and continued to stay in touch after the conference. Laura and I began to see each other regularly, despite the distance. She often flew to Seattle for the weekend, and I visited her in Chicago whenever I could. Our relationship was built on honesty and mutual respect, something I had come to value immensely. Over time, we grew closer, and I found myself falling for her. Throughout this period, I continued to attend therapy. My therapist, Dr. Mills, helped me to navigate the complexities of my new relationship. Dear viewers, I ask you to subscribe to the channel under this video. I will be very grateful to you, while still processing the fallout from my marriage. It wasn't easy, but I was determined to learn from my past and avoid repeating the same mistakes. Eventually, Laura and I decided to take the next step in our relationship. She relocated to Seattle, and we moved in together. It was a big change for both of us, but it felt right. We supported each other in our respective careers and made time for the things we loved, like hiking in the Cascades and exploring new restaurants in the city. Life has a way of surprising us, sometimes in the most unexpected ways. My journey from betrayal to healing was a long and difficult one, but it taught me the importance of resilience and self-discovery. I emerged from the darkness stronger and more confident, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. And for that, I was grateful. As Laura and I continued to build our life together, I knew that trust and communication were the foundations of a healthy relationship. We made a conscious effort to be open with each other and to address any issues head-on. It wasn't always easy, but it was worth it. Our love grew deeper with each passing day, and I knew I had found my true partner. After 2 years of living together, Laura and I had built a strong foundation. We understood each other deeply, supported each other's dreams, and tackled challenges as a team. One sunny afternoon during a hike in the Cascades, I decided it was time to take the next step. With the mountains as our backdrop, I got down on one knee and asked Laura to marry me. Her eyes filled with tears as she said yes, and in that moment, I felt a sense of joy and peace that I hadn't felt in years. We began planning our wedding, a small and intimate ceremony with close friends and family. As we prepared for our big day, I couldn't help but reflect on how far I had come since the dark days of my divorce. I was grateful for the journey, for the lessons learned, and for the love I had found. Our wedding day was perfect. Surrounded by our loved ones, Laura and I exchanged vows and promised to cherish and support each other for the rest of our lives. It was a beautiful celebration of love, resilience, and new beginnings. As we danced the night away, I looked around at the faces of our friends and family, feeling a profound sense of gratitude. After our wedding, Laura and I settled into married life. We decided to start a family, and a year later, we welcomed our daughter Emma into the world. Becoming a father was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. Emma brought a new sense of purpose and joy into our lives, and I was determined to be the best father I could be. We continued to grow our business, balancing our professional ambitions with our family life. It wasn't always easy, but we managed to find a rhythm that worked for us. Our home was filled with laughter and love, and I couldn't have asked for more. As Emma grew older, I found myself reflecting on the lessons I had learned over the years. I realized that life is unpredictable and sometimes throws us curveballs that we never saw coming. But I also learned that we have the strength to overcome even the most difficult challenges and come out stronger on the other side. I often thought about Sarah and the journey we had shared. While her betrayal had caused me immense pain, it had also led me to a better place. I had found love again, built a successful business, and created a beautiful family. For that, I was grateful. Life continued to move forward, and Laura and I faced new challenges and adventures together. We traveled, explored new opportunities, and watched Emma grow into a bright and curious young girl. Our journey was far from over, but I knew that with Laura by my side, we could face anything. As years went by, I focused on maintaining a healthy balance between work and family. Laura and I made a point to keep our communication open and to prioritize our relationship amidst the busyness of life. We set aside regular date nights and took family vacations to reconnect and create lasting memories. Emma was growing up quickly, and we wanted to make sure she felt loved and supported in everything she did. She inherited her mother's artistic talents and often spent hours drawing and painting. Laura and I encouraged her creativity and enrolled her in art classes, where she thrived. Our business continued to grow, and we reached several significant milestones. We expanded our team, opened a second office, and even received recognition from industry leaders. It was incredibly rewarding to see our hard work pay off, and it brought Laura and me even closer together. Despite the demands of running a successful business, we always made time for each other and for Emma. We celebrated our achievements together and supported each other through the challenges. It was a partnership built on mutual respect and love, and I cherished every moment. Occasionally, memories of my past with Sarah would resurface. I found myself reflecting on those years with a sense of detachment. While the pain of betrayal had once been overwhelming, it no longer held power over me. Instead, I viewed it as a chapter in my life that had shaped who I had become. I often wondered how Sarah was doing and whether she had found happiness. I didn't harbor any ill will toward her. In fact, I hoped she had found peace and contentment in her own life. Our paths had diverged, and I was grateful for the journey I had taken, even with its hardships. Our family continued to grow closer, and we often spent weekends with our extended family. Emma loved visiting her grandparents and playing with her cousins. These family gatherings were filled with laughter and love, and they reminded me of the importance of family bonds. Laura's parents were incredibly supportive, and they had welcomed me into their family with open arms. My own parents, who had been a source of strength during my divorce, continued to be a pillar of support. Together, our families formed a strong network that enriched our lives. Life, of course, was not without its challenges. As Emma entered her teenage years, we faced new parenting hurdles. There were moments of tension and frustration, but Laura and I tackled them together. We sought advice from friends and family, and remained committed to being understanding and supportive parents. There were also challenges at work. Managing a growing company came with its own set of stresses, but we were fortunate to have a dedicated team that shared our vision. Laura and I leaned on each other during tough times, and our partnership continued to be our greatest asset. Our 10th wedding anniversary was a significant milestone. We decided to celebrate with a trip to Hawaii, a place we had both always wanted to visit. It was a chance to reconnect, relax, and reflect on our journey together. The trip was magical, filled with beautiful sunsets, long walks on the beach, and deep conversations. As we stood on the beach, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Laura had brought so much joy and love into my life, and I couldn't imagine a future without her. Our journey had been filled with ups and downs, but it had also been incredibly rewarding. One of the key lessons we had learned over the years was the importance of communication. We made a point to talk openly about our feelings, our dreams, and our fears. This openness had strengthened our bond and helped us navigate the challenges of life. We also made sure to listen to each other, truly listen, and to support each other's goals. Whether it was Laura's desire to start a new project or my ambition to expand our business, we were each other's biggest cheerleaders. This mutual support was the foundation of our strong relationship. As our business thrived, we felt a growing desire to give back to our community. We started a scholarship program for underprivileged students who wanted to pursue careers in technology and design. It was our way of making a positive impact and supporting the next generation. We also volunteered at local shelters and participated in community events. These activities not only allowed us to give back, but also brought us closer together as a family. Emma often joined us, and it was heartwarming to see her develop a sense of compassion and empathy. Emma's journey through adolescence was filled with typical teenage ups and downs. She excelled in her art classes and even won a few local competitions. We encouraged her to pursue her passions and supported her in every way we could. As she prepared for college, we were both proud and a little anxious. Emma had grown into a confident and talented young woman, ready to take on the world. We knew that the values and love we had instilled in her would guide her through the challenges ahead. When Emma left for college, our home felt a little emptier. The transition to an empty nest was bittersweet, but it also brought new opportunities for Laura and me to reconnect. We revisited old hobbies, traveled, and spent quality time together. We also continued to grow our business and explore new ventures. The empty nest phase allowed us to focus on our personal and professional goals, and we embraced this new chapter with enthusiasm. As we looked ahead to the future, Laura and I were excited about the possibilities. We had built a life filled with love, support, and adventure. The journey had been far from easy, but it had been incredibly rewarding. We knew that there would be more challenges to face, but we were ready to tackle them together. Our love had only grown stronger over the years, and we were grateful for the journey we had shared. In the end, Our story is one of resilience, love, and hope. Despite the pain and betrayal of the past, we found a way to rebuild our lives and create a future filled with joy and fulfillment. Our journey was a testament to the power of love and the strength of the human spirit. As we continued to write our story, we knew that the best was yet to come. Our legacy was one of love and support, and we were committed to living each day to the fullest, cherishing every moment and looking forward to the adventures ahead.